The torches hissed like serpents along the polished corridors of the Alexandrian palace. Night pressed against the shutters. The harbor clanged with chains and murmurs. In a lamplit room heavy with lotus and seawind, servants wrestled a bolt of royal linen across the floor. Cleopatra VII, barefoot, coal like twin wings at her eyes, laid her hands on the fabric as if upon a map. Outside, Roman boots drummed closer. Julius Caesar had come to arbitrate Egypt's civil war. Inside, her brother's advisors sharpened plans to have her strangled before dawn. Cleopatra did not call her guard. She called her gambler. "Apollodorus," she whispered. "Wrap me well." And as the parcel was lifted onto the shoulders of a single Sicilian and carried toward the Roman quarter, a thought flashed through her mind. One misstep, and I am yesterday's rumor. But if the bundle opens the way I intend, the world will have to learn my name. She had been training for that moment since childhood. The Ptolemaic court, Greek at table and Egyptian on the streets, was a school of masks. Cleopatra learned to wear them and to remove them better than any tutor could teach. She was not merely clever. She was curious. In the echoing courtyards near the royal library, she argued with mathematicians. In the temple shadows she traded riddles with priests. At the harbor she listened to sailors tell how the monsoon could be timed like a heartbeat. Most Ptolemies spoke through interpreters. Cleopatra spoke to everyone. Greek with scholars, Egyptian with farmers, Aramaic and Hebrew with merchants, scraps of distant tongues with soldiers who had drifted across seas. Plutarch would later insist it was her voice, not her face, that seduced. Its music, its wit, its quicksilver understanding. Beauty fades, she liked to say. Fluency conquers. Yet, in the school of power, fluency is only the entrance exam. Who would stand beside her when knives came out? And who, grinning, would hand them over? The knives came quickly. Ptolemy XIII, her younger brother and co-ruler by tradition, was a boy in a crown. His court run by hard men with soft hands. Pothinus the vizier, Theodotus the reader, and Achilles with his soldiers. They sent Cleopatra into the desert, hoping the sands would swallow her. She returned with troops and debts, and a plan that needed only a door into Caesar's mind. Hence the linen roll, the stolen path through night, the Roman's startled laugh when the fabric spilled at his feet and a queen rose like a conjuring trick. Legend preserves the comedy, but not the calculation. The choice to appear not terrified but amused, to make the world's most dangerous man feel, for a heartbeat, like her audience. Caesar smiled. The room warmed. And by morning these two, old soldier and young sovereign, were bargaining over a future. But would he choose the queen or the contract? Alexandria became a chessboard that winter. Armies shuffled through the streets. The palace trembled with torchlight. Cleopatra's brother besieged Caesar. The Roman burned the harbor ships to clear space, and the flames leaped higher than anyone foresaw. Later centuries would blame that night for a rain of ashes upon learning itself. What the city saw was chaos. Marble blackened, rafters shrieking, scrolls curling like autumn leaves. Caesar fought for his footing on a mole as waves broke over him. A soldier pulled him, soaked, to safety. Cleopatra watched from a parapet where salt and smoke braided the air. She had staked her crown on this man's survival. If he drowned, so did she. If he won, she would owe him, and a debt to Rome was a collar on any neck. When at last Ptolemy's army broke and the boy king's golden cuirass was fished from the Nile, she did not celebrate. She began to plan her next favor and her next escape. Would Caesar offer both? He offered a son. The baby's name, Ptolemy 15 Philopator Philometor Caesar, was a dynasty in miniature. The nursemaids called him Caesarion. Cleopatra held the child on the palace balcony while Alexandria cheered, and in the markets gossip ran like river water. Was the dictator truly the father? Did Rome know? Did Rome care? Cleopatra knew that the answer mattered less than the symbol. She minted coins with her profile austere, hawk-nosed, crowned with the diadem of kings. No idealized goddess here, a ruler who paid armies and balanced books. She reformed taxes, dangled grain before Rome like bait, presided over legal cases with the briskness of a magistrate. She spoke in public, something queens were not meant to do. and styled herself Isis Reborn, Mother and Protector, a bridge between Greek city and Egyptian soil. Alexandria gleamed, and then, one March morning, the Tiber ran red with rumor. The Ides. Caesar fallen. Knives again, this time far away, but pointed, fatally, at Egypt's future. Whom would she call now? Octavian inherited Caesar's name. Mark Antony inherited his armies. The ruler Cleopatra needed would have to be both man and myth. Antony understood theater. When she sailed upriver to meet him at Tarsus, the river itself turned stage. Purple sails, silver oars, perfumed winds, Cleopatra reclining as Isis with boy attendants fanning gold dust into the air. Antony laughed until he coughed, then stopped, for he noticed the speed with which provincial governors came aboard to ask favors from her instead of him. That night the banquets glittered past decency. Cups were gold, the floor sprinkled with roses. They founded a drinking club called the Inimitable Livers and challenged fortune to keep up. But behind the carnival was math. Antony needed money for his war in the East. Cleopatra loaned him ships and silver, interest payable in territory. Cyprus came to her, along with outposts along the Phoenician coast and the balsam groves of Jericho. Egyptian scribes recorded the triumph. Roman pamphleteers called it witchcraft. Which voice would echo longest? Facts accumulated, and so did enemies. The Nile failed one season, the grain fleets thinned, and Cleopatra opened storehouses rather than let the markets turn to riots, then raised the money back by leasing crown lands with a merchant's cool eye. In her laboratories, physicians argued over venoms. Rumor said she tested poisons on condemned prisoners to find a death that was quick, clean, sovereign. In her workshops, craftsmen mixed perfumes whose recipes were guarded like battle plans. The queen who smelled of myrrh also smelled of commerce. She met with scholars in the museum, questioned engineers about canals, pressed her admirals to harden the fleet. A Roman general named Herod came and went with gritted teeth. The queen coaxed Antony to slice him down to size, and when Antony would not, she accepted a consolation prize, land and revenues, another stitch in Egypt's widening cloak. Every victory, though, lifted the knife. Octavian had his weapon ready. A story. Cleopatra was no monarch, he said, but a foreign temptress bent on making Rome kneel. Would Rome fall for the theater she herself had mastered? The answer crested at Actium. On that hot, wind-scraped day, Cleopatra's flagship, prow gilded, lion figurehead snarling, took station amid Antony's largest ships. Octavian's admiral kept his distance, wearing down the heavier fleet with skirmishes and smoke. The battle turned to fog. Signals disappeared. Somewhere in that churn of bronze and pitch a flare went up from Cleopatra's deck. Her ships swung south, sails belly full, and Antony, seeing the queen's standard glide from the slaughter, broke from the line to follow. Was it panic? A prearranged dash for open sea and a regroup in Egypt? The sea swallowed the answer. Roman poets supplied their own. The eastern gamble was lost. But Cleopatra, teeth set, still had a city to command, a treasury to hide, and children to shield from the tide she had helped to summon. Could even she out-talk inevitability? Octavian came like a tide at dawn. Antony's last loyalists fell one by one. Alexandria's harbor, once starry with lanterns, bristled with Roman masts. Cleopatra built her mausoleum and stocked it with treasure, a message any Roman could read. Deal with the living queen, or inherit a corpse and a ransacked city. She sent ambassadors with offers. Caesarion as a client king. Her twins by Antony brought up in honor. The Ptolemaic throne preserved as Rome's ally. Octavian wrote back with courtesies sharp as razors. Antony, hearing a false rumor that she had already killed herself, opened his own veins and was carried, bleeding, to her. They saw each other one last time, her robes drenched scarlet, his breath a broken bellows, and the palace echoed with the kind of silence only endings make. Octavian entered the city within days. He wished for Cleopatra alive and paraded, a jewel on his triumph. But she had been studying poisons for years. Which would she choose, viper, ointment, or a pin hollow as a reed? The historical record grows contradictory here, as if even the scribes could not bear to look closely. A basket arrived, say some, filled with figs and hiding a serpent's flicker. Others say a needle, a salve, a brew tested long ago in secret rooms. What is certain is that Cleopatra greeted the future emperor in her best armor, language. She bargained, stalled, flattered, joked, all the while wearing a crown of calculated dignity. And when she knew the bargaining had reached its last comma, she retreated to the mausoleum and closed the stone behind her. The torches hissed, the lotus smoke softened. She reached for the death she had curated like a perfume. Swift, sovereign, hers. When Octavian's men broke the door, she was already beyond spectacle. Egypt's last pharaoh left Rome a puzzle it still toys with. What is power if not the right to write your own final line? Her children were parceled to Roman households. Caesarion, too close to divinity for comfort, did not survive. Octavian recast himself as Augustus and turned the Mediterranean into a Roman lake. Yet Cleopatra would not stay buried. Centuries brushed dust from her image and found it inconveniently alive. Coins show a queen with an uncompromising profile, not a Venus but a strategist. Papyri preserve decrees written in a hand that knew both market arithmetic and temple ritual. She was the first of her dynasty to speak with her subjects in their language, the last to weld Greek cunning to Egyptian sacrality in a single person. She used love as leverage, theater as diplomacy, knowledge as weaponry. She made her kingdom not merely a basket of grain but a broker of routes and rumors, of perfumes and papyrus, of symbols and the stories they buy. Her detractors called it sorcery. Her admirers called it statecraft. The truth is more fascinating. Cleopatra grasped that power is partly supply and mostly demand. You supply ships, money, law, and you manufacture a demand for yourself, the only person who can harmonize the contradictions. She did it with a voice that could turn from velvet to verdict, with a mind that kept double-entry tables beside hymns to Isis, with a will that chose death rather than be rehearsed as someone else's prop. Love did not save her. It amplified her. Ambition did not destroy her. It made her a mirror in which empire saw its own hunger and called it foreign. And the hook with which this story began, the bundle of linen swaying down a torchlit corridor, never really ends. Every era opens it again, expecting a beauty to tumble out, and finds instead a governor of selves. Linguist, treasurer, captain, performer, mother, mythmaker. Each time the fabric unfurls, one question rises with the perfume. What might she have built if the tide had shifted by a single gust? An Eastern superpower centered in Alexandria? A Roman Empire with 2 capitals and a queen as co-ruler? Or merely another mask, exquisitely made, for the same old hunger? Listen, the torches still hiss. The harbor still whispers. Somewhere a basket rustles and a serpent's eye opens. Or perhaps it is only a pin pricking history's skin. Either way, the spell works. You lean closer, waiting for the bundle to fall open. For the queen to stand, laughing, radiant. Already 3 steps into the negotiation she has prepared all her life. And because she knew how stories rule the living, Cleopatra VII is still ruling, across the gulf of time, by the oldest crown of all, attention.